Hey YouTubers, how's it going? Here again with another knife review, and man am I excited to tell you about this new acquisition that I just got, I don't know, probably about a month ago. It's pretty awesome. I think that anybody who looks at this is going to most likely be very impressed. This is called the Decepticon. It's a high-end mid-tech knife out of Russia, collaborated and manufactured to a certain extent in China, then hand fitted and finished off in Russia again. This is designed by Alexey Konygin, and you can purchase this from Custom Knife Factory on the website. You can get it on their website, and also I believe the website's called From Russia with Knives. Pretty awesome offering that they have here. They have a few other models. This is by far my favorite, the most anticipated for a lot of people. A lot of people have seen some of the customs. This was first a custom, almost impossible to get your hands on, and the cost was, insanity, especially on the secondary market. What you're seeing here is their mid-tech version of this. They've had other Decepticons. They're going to have more. This is the I think the best looking one, you could say, in my opinion. There's going to be some really cool stuff coming from them, other versions of Decepticons, so stay posted for that. If I get my hands on them, I'll do some reviews on that. Yeah, this is not part of the knife here. It's just to prop it up so you can see it. This is just a titanium bottle opener I have behind it. Anyway, this knife is about 7 ounces. I think it's closer to 6.8 to be exact. It's a 4-inch blade, and the overall length is right around 9 inches. The handle to blade ratio is pretty good, almost excellent when you have it closed. As you can see, there's not a lot of excess handle sticking out when you have it closed, and I like that. I don't like to see a ton of extra blade, a ton of extra handle when it's just not needed. There's a lot going on this knife if you haven't already noticed. There's only 330 of these made. This says 300, limited run of 300. There was the very first batch of these, they made 30 of them. And once those sold out, I finally jumped on the bandwagon and got in on the second run. So there's 330 total of these out there. So from a collectability standpoint, that's pretty awesome. There's not a million of them floating around, or without exaggeration, more like there's thousands of them floating around. And it just looks really freaking cool. I personally don't have any knives that I think look as cool as this. I've never seen any knives that I think look as cool as this. That's kind of quite the statement, and that's gonna be different for every person. Some people, I think most people are gonna love this knife. I think some of them might think it's, just not what they're into. This isn't an elegant or classy folder. This is just badass. It just looks crazy. When I first saw it, I just saw all the different layers and levels and machine work involved, and just was enamored by it. Couldn't believe it. And when you get it in your hand, it's a whole new level of appreciation. Because when the engineering, the fit and finish, the materials used, when the quality is just as impressive with all those things as the design is, you have yourself an awesome knife. And that's what this is. They didn't skimp on anything. So what you're seeing here is all of the flat surfaces on this knife have a brushed, like a satin rub finish almost. And everything else has that matte finish on all the angular parts of it, except for this little titanium piece that goes through on the inner layer of the primary handle scale, this base layer. That's where that pops through. And then you have the logo for Custom Knife Factory. All of the handle is titanium, all the layers, the back spacer here, the primary slabs of titanium that press the backspacer together, and then the outermost layers of titanium. All of that's titanium, and then you have the hardened steel hardware, the two pins holding everything together, the pivot pin, and then the hardware holding the pocket clip on, also titanium pocket clip. Such a great design. Look at the angle and the precision on that. Again, it's flat right here and that satin rub finish, and then the matte. It offers really nice depth and contrast. Singular post here, or screw or pin, and then this post or pin is what anchors it and keeps it in place, so that way this doesn't rotate. The pocket clip won't budge. You can put in a lanyard if you'd like. And this is pretty innovative. I like this a lot. The stop pin is attached to the blade like a thumb stud would be, and it rotates and is hidden here, and when you deploy the blade flips open and then catches inside the actual handle, and that's what works as the stop pin. Instead of having a stop pin in here, this is, in my opinion, just the best design you can have. It's actually part of the blade there. So it's not going to weaken the blade, and it's not going to get beat up as much as you would if you had a stop pin on the back here, on the inside, in between the two frames. So it's better off this way, and it's a lot better than having the internal stop pin where they actually cut out material on the base of the blade. That actually weakens the integrity of the blade. You'll see that on this Spyderco Southern collaboration. That's a very good knife, but just an observation. I like that this is nice and strong and sturdy and well designed. The blade material is S35VN. And it is a very good quality steel. I'm a fan of that steel. I also like how sterile the blade is. There's not anything that's really going to take away from all of the fancy milling and design work that has been put into this blade design. The only thing you have is the right here on the top where it says S35VN, and that's it. Everything else is nice and sterile and clean. Again, the flat, I don't know if you're picking that up or not, but the flats have that satin rub, and the swedge has this really cool milling that goes through it. And then you have kind of a modified drop point, almost kind of like a sheep's foot curvature at the top here, but then you have, again, a very modified tanto. The point of the tanto is not very defined, but the grind is there, you can see that. And with all the angles, this is such an amazing design of a blade. I find it to be a really good design, and I say that because it's not just aesthetically pleasing, for me anyway. I think this thing looks just amazing, but you can actually use this blade if you wanted to. I hope that I see more blades designed like this, because I will definitely be acquiring those. It's a really good utility blade. It's going to give you a strong point, it's going to be good at piercing, and it's still going to be very good at slicing. You have a nice belly, So just a really cool design, but man, aesthetically this thing just looks nuts. They also did this really cool, see if I can capture it, stone wash on all of the angular parts of it, and then there's a really cool, it almost looks like an orange peel finish on this cutout right here, this area for your thumb to point in if you wanted to do that. And everything kind of flows together. You have this indentation, this cutout here, and it flows right over and goes right up this line here. Just an awesome design. Skeletonized flipper. As you can see, they really layered this up and trimmed out a lot of material. And for such a large blade knife, I think it's a good complement the weight that it has. It could be a hell of a lot heavier. For example, I have another mid-tech here that weighs more but is smaller in overall length. It's a pretty robust knife, you know, very wide. There's a lot of material here, but this Reate District 9 D9B, I believe is the model, which I'll do a separate review on. I'm a big fan of this. It's kind of at the other end of the price spectrum for mid-techs, but a lot more bang for buck if you ask me. Anyway, this thing weighs, if I recall, 7.4 ounces, where this one weighs 6.8. The Decepticon is lighter, yet overall is just a longer knife. Similar in blade width, similar. A little bit longer, but when you start removing all the materials on this Decepticon, it actually has an impact. This is by no means a lightweight knife. I'm just saying that it could be a lot heavier. Fairly thick, wide I mean, so you definitely notice it in hand. But surprisingly enough, it's pretty comfortable in the pocket. Fairly deep carry, so there's not a ton hanging out, but you also have enough sticking out of the pocket, just enough so that way you can grab onto it and pull it out very easily. The handle, the outermost slab of titanium here, is not two pieces. This is just milled really deep to look like that, just to give it more complexity. It's actually just, you can see it connecting right there, just milled out really deep. So the action, oh my gosh, it is one of the best actions in my collection. It is smooth, it is fast. Did I mention smooth? Because it's smooth. It's on ball bearings. It's on really nice bearings, but it just floats. There's no resistance. The detent probably helps. It has a really good detent on it. It's not super strong. I could probably shake this out. Yeah, I had to give it a good amount of effort or force to try to get that to budge. So it's definitely secure, but there's a really good detent. It's not too strong, but it's comfortable enough to where it doesn't take any effort at all to get this thing to just glide out. Silky smooth. There's just no feel of friction when you're holding the handle and you're feeling the blade move around, or you're seeing the blade move around, because you're not feeling it move around. There's no resistance at all. And it's built really to light switch. It does that so well. And I say that just because of how it's angled and designed here. They kind of just want to have you pull it down like that. But you can of course light switch it. I'm sorry, button press it. It's just so much easier and more comfortable to do because it's not sharp. It's not sharp or anything, but there is just that angled point where you can tell this is just a platform right here for your finger. You rest your finger right on top and just pull back and the blade just fires right out. Super fast, super smooth. Of course, the fit and finish, as I was mentioning before, is superb. Okay, the blade centering is perfect. The geometry, the symmetry behind the blade grind is outstanding. It comes extremely sharp. Extremely sharp. Very impressed with that. And the edge geometry is very consistent, which I appreciate very much. There was a lot of precision involved in making this. They did an excellent job. So if you are hung up on the price, because that's come up a lot, I really have seen a lot of feedback just in general on this knife, all positive. A lot of people see this and just go nuts over it and say, I gotta get one, because it just looks so unique and cool. But then they see the price tag on it, and I've seen that probably be the only negative feedback. That's the only reconsideration for acquiring this knife, and rightfully so. It's a lot of money, no doubt about that. It's not on the secondary market. If you get it right from them, you're going to be spending $1,070 before shipping. It's coming from Russia. So it'll take, probably, I think it only took me a couple weeks to get. They were really good about it. Mike is the primary point of contact over there, and he was outstanding when he was taking pre-orders for this knife. Very, very well executed. They operate smoothly over there. They communicated with me the whole time, told me, when I got in, what my number was, and when I should be getting it, and it came right on time, which is, a lot of that's out of their control because it's going through customs anyway. So it was really kind of just worked out. It was very lucky. I was actually nervous this being shipped in because you never know with customs if you're actually going to get it. If somebody sees something they like, you may never get it. So anyway, the service over there is great. They're putting out really, really high-end quality products, and I think that pretty much anything you get from them is going to be worth it. Again, if it's in your budget and if you appreciate the knife that you're looking at. This knife here has all the things that I'm looking for in a flipper, not to mention, not even acknowledging or talking about how cool it looks, the design, how unique it is. It has a silky smooth, perfect action. detent, like I was talking about. The flipper aspect of it and the action of it is perfect. Literally perfect. There's nothing I would change about it whatsoever. Aesthetically, it's perfect. I love it. The materials used are outstanding. Really good heat treats on all their blades that I've seen before, so I wouldn't have any reason to think that this is going to be the same way with this S35 VN blade steel. It's very much a one-of-a-kind, not literally one-of-a-kind, but it's very collectible. There's not going to be a ton of these floating around, and a lot of people are going to be blown away when you pull this out. So it's definitely a collectible conversation piece, a showpiece, something that if you have a knife display like I do, this is kind of front and center sort of thing. And I have a lot of other high-end knives, a lot of customs, a lot of other mid-techs that are all amazing in their own right. I just find this one to be unlike anything else I've ever seen. And that could be a good or a bad thing. I've seen plenty of things that I'm like, whoa, I've never seen anything like that before, and that's ugly as shit. You know, this is not the case with this. Most people, it was just received so well on Instagram, on Facebook, on the websites and the forums. Everybody's going nuts over this thing. And I totally understand why. I did not feel alone in my obsession with this knife. Lockup is very nice. It's at about, let me look at that, I don't know, 35%, maybe 40%. And I don't want to get into all that. That's perfect for me. I would be okay if it's earlier. I'd be okay if it's later. I wouldn't want it to be much earlier or much later in any direction. I'm pretty happy with where it's at. It's at a sweet spot right there. And lock bar insert, steel lock bar insert. Steel to steel. It's not titanium to steel. That's a no-go. That's a showstopper for me. So I was really happy to see that. Everything's very overbuilt, as you can see. I have 2 robust pins in there holding everything together. And they were even intelligent enough to design, to bevel, to angle these this portion right here, so that way when you're putting your finger in there to disengage the lock, it's very comfortable. So that's something I see a lot of good knife makers miss, and it's a huge disappointment for me, because I like to fondle the hell out of knives like this because they're just so cool and the actions are so smooth and I'm always playing with them. So I want to be able to handle it and enjoy it. You know, I want it to be nice to my hands like it's nice to my eyes, basically. So this accomplishes that. The weight is up there. It's not. This isn't really designed for an EDC knife, in my opinion. It's big in all dimensions, and it's somewhat heavy. It's that last knife that I was just showing you as a comparison. That thing's in my pocket a lot, actually, and it's fine. It's heavier than what you're looking at right now. But I'm just saying, if you're going to classify something as an everyday carry, that means that it would be good at carrying it every day. This, you'd probably say after a while, man, this is cool, but I'd rather get something a little more comfortable in my pocket. Most likely, anyway. So I'm not going to call this an EDC. It's really a collectible knife. Of course, you're going to be able to use this in a defensive role. It's got plenty of length on the blade. It's a flipper, and honestly, as long as you're not injured and you have a decent grip, hand strength, I think you're going to be able to use any flipper in a defensive role as long as the blade's long enough, and as long as the blade isn't too delicate, because you have a hand guard pretty much, or an inner choil to stop your hand from sliding forward if you're doing a thrust or a pierce. Slashing is just hold on to it. If you can swing a bat, just grip it and swing. Grip it and rip it. So this is just really that's what this type of knife is for, just to collect and fondle and show off. I'm sure it would perform well in any other role, but again, a little too large to be, I think, deemed an EDC knife. But everywhere I've gone, the feedback on this has just been, wow, that knife's insane, and I love everything about it. There's really nothing bad I could say about it. I understand that if there is going to be anything that's debated, it's probably the price. And that's because there's mid-tech knives out there that are really high-end, made by really well-known, well-established makers that do really, really good work. And you could probably you can definitely get into some of their knives that it'll end up costing you less than this knife will. I don't think that in most cases they're going to offer some of the things that this knife offers. You're going to get a smooth action, you're going to get great lockup and fit and finish, and just knowing that hands have touched it to make it all come together and it's not just machined and mass produced. Those are all things you're going to get with a mid-tech or a custom knife in this price point. But the uniqueness of this design and how aggressive and badass it looks, I mean, the thing really does, I think it's appropriately named Decepticon. It does kind of look like a Transformer, or a knife that a Transformer would have. I just don't see that you're going to find that as much uniqueness and as much effort that must have been put forth to get all the machining done. It's pretty elaborate with all these different layers here and all the different milling. I don't think you're going to find that at this price. So your opinion may vary, and that's cool. This is just kind of my ultimate mid-tech. I don't think I'm going to find anything better from just a wow factor standpoint. I think there's going to be other things that you're going to see me do reviews on, that you'll see other reviews on, that are going to make you thoroughly happy owning them, and you could spend a lot less. That District 9 that I just pulled out earlier, in comparison, was only $199. It's $200, and it's awesome. Every time I carry it, every time I pull it out, every time I flip it, I'm stoked. The same way I feel about this Decepticon here. This Decepticon for me is just on a whole new level. It's the top tier of mid-techs. So others have said it, I'll say it, this feels like a custom. It really does. The tolerances, the fit and finish, the design, everything that's been, the way it's been put together, it feels like a custom in hand. It feels like a good custom in hand. I've felt many customs and mid-techs that don't have an action near as nice as this, and they're still a good action. This reminds me, in a way, of a Shirgorov. Now the Shirgorov action, even their mid-tech ones and not the full customs, I would say are probably one of the best flipping actions out there. There are, of course, some that are very comparable, and I think this one, this Decepticon, is comparable, but the Shirgorovs kind of trump everything. Obviously not everything. There's gonna be something out there that is just as good, maybe even better, but I've never heard of it and I've never seen it. The Shirgorov actions are amazing, and to put this anywhere near that level of quality and function on a knife action is saying a lot. So all the fit and finish that you have in here is just so well done and so well executed. There's a lot of variation. There's a lot of contrast from the brushed look to the orange peel to the really nice stone wash. The same thing on the handle minus the stone wash. It's just really, really nicely done. They didn't put in too much hardware, which I like. They just kept it simple because the design itself has a ton of complexity. I talked about the comfort in pocket. Let me address the comfort in hand. It's comfortable, especially for the way it looks. It looks a little edgy, a little extreme, and it doesn't feel edgy or extreme in the hand. It is by no means the most well-rounded, contoured, ergonomic knife in the world. Okay, there's plenty that are going to feel so much better in your hand than this is, but it is not uncomfortable at all. I don't feel any hot spots. Now, I haven't gone out and really wailed on this thing and started cutting with it like crazy and putting a ton of downward force on it to see how it's going to feel on the inside of my palm. I did not buy that knife for this. This knife for that purpose. I simply wanted something that's just awesome just to have it, because I haven't seen a knife look as cool as this pretty much ever. So I'm sure if you want to go out and use it and really beat the shit out of it, I'm sure it's going to fare well. I'm sure it's going to hold up very well. I would like to know what you do for a living if you're comfortable doing that. And I would like to actually see how it holds up, because I'm only assuming that it would hold up really well. I wouldn't be surprised if it held up really well, but I also wouldn't be surprised if you said, you know what, when I was really cutting with this and really testing it, it was a little uncomfortable, maybe up in here. I mean, everything's rounded off pretty well. There isn't any sharp angles except for the very ends up here, all the way up towards the pivot area, and all the way at the bottom here. Then you got some edges. You know, that'd be a good weapon, a good striking point. You could probably break glass, a skull, whatever you needed to with this very well. But my hand's not going there, so it's not going to be uncomfortable. It's not tearing into my skin. My hand is just right here, and everywhere my hand's touching, it's comfortable. It's well contoured. There is a nice curvature to this knife, which I'm a big fan of. And you kind of have that sweeping design. Okay, it's not just a straight Quaken style. Really, really, as far as curvature goes, the ergonomics are really, really good. That's been done before. Of course, everything has. And a good example is that curvature I'm talking about is this Spyderco Southern. It has similar handle curvature. See that? It's not just a straight bar. Kind of like, see how straight this is? Okay, this actually curves in the hand, and because of that is very comfortable. Very comfortable. Now this one doesn't have as many angles. It's just one solid, consistent line or curved shape. I've rounded and contoured all of the materials. The titanium has been contoured. I don't know if the camera's picking that up, but I did all that myself. But I did that to make it extremely ergonomic. I don't know if I have any other knife that's as comfortable in my hand as this one. But the reason why I compared it is because of that same handle curvature. It just works really well with the hand. It just feels really well because it curves out at the bottom there. And our fingers are smaller when you get down to your ring finger and pinky, so you have less grip if it's going to be a straight line. So when it curves, it just molds right into the shape and the design of our own hand. So I think that's why it works so well, and it's reflected. The same concept is executed here with the Decepticon. It's very, very comfortable and contoured as far as the curvature goes. As far as surface areas and then the cutouts here, and then you do have different levels, you feel that too, so it's not quite as smooth and comfortable in the hand as something like that Southern I just had. But it's still surprisingly comfortable in the hand for the way it looks. I don't know. Maybe you don't look at it the same way. When I first looked at this, I'm like, man, that thing looks cool. I don't know how cool it's going to feel in my hand, though. In other words, I thought it was going to be very uncomfortable. Still didn't care. I didn't plan on this being a heavy user. I just thought it was so badass looking, I had to have it. So it was to my delight and my surprise when I found out that it's actually pretty decent in the hand. So that's my really long drawn out explanation to it's not bad in the hand, it's not bad in the pocket, and it's about as cool as it gets on the eyes. So if you're okay with how it is on the pocket, pick one up. I think they're actually still available. I don't know how many they'll have left at this point, if there are any available. But if you're kind of on the fence about it, I would suggest getting it because you have nothing to lose, because you'll be able to sell this on the secondary market. I'm not saying like tomorrow, but let's say next year you had it for a while, you did a knife review or took a ton of pictures or just fondled it for a year and just loved it and showed it off. If you decided to package it back up and sell it somewhere, you're not going to have a problem, I suspect. And you're probably going to make a nice profit on it, I suspect. I could pretty much feel comfortable saying that you're not going to lose any money. I'm pretty confident about that. There's a lot of people who I think are going to want this, especially when all of the hype kind of cools down and they're not available anymore. It's going to be more desired. So I would pick one up now and know that probably going to be able to make my money back if for whatever reason I don't want to keep it. I actually ended up selling some of my other knives and doing some custom knife work to fund this purchase, so it was a no-brainer for me. But there's no way I'll ever get rid of this. It's staying in my collection. It is awesome. It really accomplishes everything I could want in a knife, aside from the EDC and user aspect of it. I know I could use it. I just don't want to. I don't want to bang it up. I think it looks too nice. But it's got a different type of look. One more comparison, and I've been wanting to do a knife review on this for a very long time. I've been waiting because I've been very busy, just life gets in the way. I got a Will Moon knife. If you haven't heard of him, he's a custom knife maker down in North Carolina, and he does amazing work. He really does. He's one of my favorites as far as design goes, and I got one of my favorite models that he does, called the MK6, and here it is. First time most people have ever seen this knife, because there's only one like it, and there it is. The in a comparison between a full custom and a high-end mid-tech, the action, and that's why I haven't reviewed this, because Will Moon's awesome, and when I first got this knife, I was not completely pleased with it, and I'm going to send it back to him, and he's going to fix it. I'll get it back into a full review. One of the things about his knives is the actions are usually better than what I've been talking about here. It's some of the best I've felt. I've handled some of his other knives, same design, and they're just amazing. The flipping action, they just fly out. It's like it's just floating on air. It's a little bit better than the Decepticon. But when you really look at what you're getting, this Decepticon, like I told you, let's just call it $1,100. You just bump up a few hundred more dollars. This was $1,500 for a full custom. When this action gets straightened out, it's going to be a little bit better, just a little bit better than this Decepticon. But what you can get for $1,500 is contoured, elegant, premium materials, one of a kind, and full custom. That's what full custom is all about. See if I can get that Mokutai clip in there. Just amazing. Mirror polish. I mean, one hell of a mirror polish too. That is mirror. So anyway, little taste, little debut. I'll send it to him, get it back. But you know, the reason why I bring this out is, you know, they're somewhat comparable in size, somewhat comparable in price, and the point is the Decepticon has a lot of the really good qualities that a full custom does. And I know you're kind of nipping at the heels of some decently priced customs when you look at the $1,100 cost of a Decepticon, and you could very easily spend a little bit less than what the Decepticon costs for some full customs. I just don't think that they're going to have some of the uniqueness and the strong design factors and consistency too that you're going to see in this Decepticon. Will Moon's been doing what he's been doing for a long time, and everything fits together perfectly, and contours and tapers ever so perfectly. But that's what you're paying for, and he does it all by hand. The Decepticon is so close. Totally different knife. You know, this is more of a sleek, classy, beautiful, elegant look, and this is, again, just a badass, just a hunk of industrial, crazy metal. You know, very, very industrial looking, if you ask me. But even though they're two different types of knives, for the price point, you know, you're getting really good premium materials either way you look at it. So I think I'm really trying to just make the point of don't get hung up on titles or labels like mid-tech and custom. Look at the quality, look at the fit and finish, look at the materials being used, look at the design and how aesthetically pleasing it is to you. And if all those things are there, then it doesn't really matter what it's called, whether you want to call it a mid-tech or a custom, because you're just looking at a really awesome knife, and that's what it's all about, in my opinion. So I think I pretty much covered everything. I got a lot of the stats in there for this knife, my views and takes on it. If you have any questions for me or any feedback, as always, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and take care.